Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter podcast for August the 3rd. Wow, we are right smack in the middle of summer, and never has it been a year with odd weather that we were all just talking about that we appreciate it more. So I'm going to get right to it. Today, we're going to talk about anxiety. All right. And as I started developing the material and I was trying to thin it down to be one podcast, I realized that really that was going to do a disservice, A, to the topic, and B, to the number of people who I think it's been a very, very long time since I was speaking to somebody and they weren't talking about something to do with clutter, hoarding, whatever the continuum is for them, and the word anxiety came up. So I'm thinking of making this a 3 to 4 part series where we can really bite down on it because the uniqueness of how it plays out symptomatically, um, I think requires that to do this any kind of serious justice. So people can walk away with an understanding that their experience is pretty much the same as the others, even though it plays out differently. All right. So today, as I said, we're going to talk about anxiety. And the other reason, other than the people that I do talk with, you folks, my clients, is that if you really look at just even social media and a lot of the what passes for communication, you would see that half the Western world um, is experiencing anxiety. Many of whom have depression mixed in, which complicates things significantly. It's a serious combination, and it's very disruptive, and it is manageable, not to a perfect degree, all right, because wherever we go, there we are, the good, the bad, and the indifferent about us as individuals. However, it is manageable. And I'd like to give people who don't have the time, don't have the funds, don't have the capability to get counseling for their anxiety and depression, I'd like to be able to give you folks more information to work with that is sound so that you can use the really good manuals and workbooks that are out there in an effective way. Now, I do have to say, because almost certainly today, we're going to open the floor to discussion. And I want to underscore what we're doing when we open the floor and I do Q&As. That is not counseling. And it's not counseling because you and I have not undertaken a contract, and I don't mean that in a financial way, but just a mutual understanding that you are coming to me for one-to-one pliable counseling. All right. It's coaching. And coaching is different. It's not designed to be to the person precise based on your experience and your background, but it is meant to be helpful to help you get the handles on whatever it is that is getting in the way of you having the life you want and deserve. So, whether anxiety is for you a chronic experience, or, or whether it's just something that from time to time is you're vaguely aware of in the background of your days, but you don't feel enough of the time, or maybe any of the time, that you're dealing with it well, which means that it remains persistent. It's sort of like that background noise in your life, all right? Not to the point, hopefully, that it's disabling you, um, but it seems to be winning more than you are winning. So even if it's just distracting you, that price is too high a price to pay. All right. It's disruptive and it's disorienting and distracting. So in the effort today to have a look at anxiety, we're going to go, and probably over the next 3 podcasts as well, I'm going to try to help to dissect what the truth is about anxiety, because I believe that a lot of what gets experienced and called anxiety might actually be something else. It might be maybe some form of dysthymia, which is like a low grade depression that just rumbles in the background. All right. All right. So when it comes to the way you feel, having something that puts you in a mindset or an availability that feels so resistant to the efforts you make to get past it, to deal with it, to understand it. So, realistically, what can we do about it? All right, it has to work in the real world. So that rather than have it manage us, we manage it. All right, not perfectly, but good enough. And by managing it, we're actually developing the survival mechanism. We're actually having a difficult time managing, all right, anything consistently enough that helps us, all right? And to the extent that we miss the mark, and right now I'd like you to start, if this is starting to sound like, yeah, there is that kind of mood that kind of takes over, or those internal thoughts, that uns uncertainty, that just doesn't feel safe enough. I want you now to start honing in on how what I'm about to say, might play out for you. Where do you feel it? What are the first symptoms that you realize, oh, it's going to be that kind of day? Or you're in the midst of a response to something, and then this gray zone sort of starts to interfere and take over and distract you. So you can't really make a plan, follow a plan, and feel like you're making progress. So I'm hoping that in this podcast, in the next 3, we're going to find strategies to do what? Not to change you as human beings and individuals, but to change our relationship with anxiety. All right. Because even if we can just change our relationship to it, so it's a win-win situation, anxiety might become an alert to you, but not go on to take residence in your brain, in your system, start to affect you hormonally. It's just an alert that, you know what, this thing I'm not feeling good about, this thing is something I need to come back to and handle better and find out, what do I need? Where is it? And how do I get enough of it to make enough of a difference rather than feel kind of disoriented and derailed? All right. So changing our relationship will make that easier to get that transformation done. It does not mean, however, that because it's just a transition, it remains not enough. And you can't actually do it. All right. If you've lived with anxiety, you already have done the more difficult thing. All right. And that is to persevere in the face of it. Right. So, starting today, if you can, try very hard not to hang on to the doubt and the mistrust that may be not the best, most effective response to that anxiety, that anxious feeling that kind of just invades. You don't kind of know what to do about it, and so you doubt yourself. You see it as an invader, all right, that somehow you're not adequately protected against. And it affects your mood. It affects your availability for yourself, what you want to do, and your availability for even the people who love you the most. So I don't want you, after these 4 podcasts on anxiety, I don't want you to consider in any way that anxious feelings that persist, anxious feelings that give you an alert are a good thing. All right. Something's off the mark. But when they persist and they kind of become a not great neighbor, but like your closest neighbor, and they can kind of arrive at your door any day, any time, depending on how secure you feel about something, that can become a self-protective mechanism. All right. And that is not what we want to persist. All right. Because all that does is keep you on the cusp of feeling unsafe. Now, I want to introduce you to a book called Generation Anxiety. That's actually the name of it. And it's by Dr. Lauren, Lauren Cook. And she makes the observation that as an anxiety sufferer herself, so she speaks from the first person, part of success and management of anxiety, oddly enough, is accepting the fact that anxiety does play a part and a role in your life. Right? And but what it isn't is something that has to be a reminder of everything that didn't go well and that you failed. All right. And so you are vulnerable to this. All right. Okay. So it's okay to feel exposed. That often doesn't feel comfortable. Feels like you're not really resourced, and that can make a person feel vulnerable and sort of a little shaky. But what's needed instead of the giving into the anxiety to a full-blown experience is to learn how to attract to yourself the strategies, the relationships, and the experience to help yourself when you start to experience the precursors to full-blown anxiety. All right. And when you can even put yourself on pause, you don't necessarily know what to do. You don't necessarily understand whatever the experience is, all right, that you're a little super ultra cautious about. Um, put yourself on pause and know that by the end of this 4-part series, and I want you to take notes, all right, or go to the book. Take it from the library. Don't get another book. Um, I want you to know that there are strategies that will not heal it 100%, but will give you the advantage to keep anxiety, that anxious awareness, as a positive warning that something needs attention or something needs adaptation. All right. And then that will help you not go over the edge into the hormonal bath that then makes you, it's like being a little bobbin on a creek going downhill. All right. You ever watch that bobbin get out of the water? No chance at all. All right. So you're not along for the ride. You now can stay on the edge, and take yourself to where you need to be, not have to wait for the full play out of that hormonal bath, which is very uncomfortable and exhausting and difficult, really difficult to get yourself back to manageable. All right. So I'm hoping, in a nutshell, the next three and this one will help you observe from the edge, not the ledge. All right. You're too far into the experience by the time you're on the ledge. All right. The other thing too that is a big lie, um, is that when you're feeling anxious and it's kind of becoming an anxiety, not attack or panic attack, but a little bigger than you're comfortable with. A very common perception is that you're alone, that you're alone with the anxiety. Sorry, people. Alone is in your head. You're never alone. There are always resources that you can access and that you can learn to use a whole lot more efficiently than going to the book, reading them, and trying to work backwards. All right. Forewarned is forearmed. So it's a normal experience to vaguely have a vague feeling of intensity, really intense. That is a normal experience. And we especially feel that maybe bigger than it actually is. It's real, but it can overtake a person and leave you feeling unsupported, alone in the wilderness, sort of, alone with whatever this unknown, unwanted reaction is. All right. It can also, when you go there, rather than put yourself on pause as fast as you can, when you start to feel the downslide, it can make you feel inadequate too by being super vulnerable. And there's a difference between feeling under-resourced and not resourced at all. All right. And in the next three, and I promise I will stop saying that, we're going to do little experiments with some of the most readily available strategies to get yourself away from the ledge. All right. To maybe just that, have you ever had that? And I know you have if you're nodding with about anxiety. Um, that feeling of tenseness. You ever had that? Where you don't kind of know what it is. It's sort of behind the curtain, and it doesn't feel like you really want to make friends with it or incorporate it. All right. So you're feeling kind of tense. That also, so long as you don't hold on to it, that's a good alert. All right. Your vulnerability, all right, at feeling inadequately resourced actually stems from um, the need for urgent behaviors, like choices, things to do, transitions. And some of those, I'll give you a short list of the most common checking behaviors. All right. self support in the way of reassurance. You reassure yourself, reassure yourself, reassure yourself. Self reassurance is not the same as being feeling resourced and having a go-to strategy. All right. So, um, unrealistic demands. We start making unrealistic demands of ourselves. It becomes all or nothing, black and white. And that difference between both of those polar ends, and extremes are never good. All right. Even the perfect response to it isn't going to last very long. You want to know what to do next. All right. Um, will distract us. It will distract us mentally, physically, emotionally, physically. All right. All right. As the anxiety, that hormonal bath that takes over, floods you. All right. And that hormonal bath with anxiety actually does make you not just experience scary vulnerability, but it takes a lot to come back from that. All right. So many people then will, when they start to feel that, just that alert, and then don't know what to do to stay on the safe side, they start engaging in adaptive behaviors. All right. But they're counter adaptive, things like people pleasing. All right. Buying peace. Peace doesn't come at a price. All right. Buying peace is never, unless your life is in jeopardy, is never a good option, because you're paying too high a price and you're leaving your unique needs out of it when you're buying peace and by people pleasing. Their needs get met, your needs don't get met. Well, how, by not meeting your needs, are you going to learn to deal with anxiety properly? It's not the other person's anxiety, it's yours. All right. Also, controlling behaviors, going to the other extreme. All right. Demanding of yourself a perfection. Um, Escalating a mood, escalating a response. One of the other adaptive, maladaptive behaviors that people go to is hoarding. All right. Hoarding for security, hoarding for attachment to something, hoarding for just the impulsiveness of the immediate need, which is not a need, it's an impulse. All right. An impulse is never a need. All right. Never a need. So hoarding behavior can also be an adaptation, maladaptation to anxiety. All right. I can't I can't figure out how to give myself what I need. In fact, I don't even know what I need really, because I'm so stimulated, I'm so triggered that I'll take anything. I'll convince myself that that's a good idea. I will convince myself that I need that. At least I'm doing something. All right. On the reverse, I've already acquired, and I have to make a decision. Well, that decision feels very final. And I'm not sure enough about anything really that I feel I'm in a position to make a decision I have to live with for the rest of my life. So I do nothing. I distract, I do something else, I leave it, I, you, right now. Netflix is always a good choice. Um, or our phones. All right. What right now, give some thought. I'm going to stop for a second. I want you to ask yourself truthfully, when you don't know what to do, but a decision is probably required, would be a better result. What do you use to distract yourself? What do you use to calm yourself, to reassure yourself, to soothe yourself? What do you use? Take out your pens and paper and write it right now. Let's see if we can't make this applicable to 47 people. And that will be done in the uniqueness of you. How do you soothe yourself? Now, if you've got more than a few ideas on how you do that, now I want you to look at them. Just look at the first three and ask yourself, is that a positive? Is it a negative? Or is it just neutral? Chances are it's not neutral. Now, even if it was positive, even if you put a plus sign beside it, a plus sign, look at it again. Now ask yourself, of the number of times you use that adaptive behavior, maladaptively maybe, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much positivity is there? Is it a good choice? Does it really do the trick? Does it strengthen you and enable you to continue moving forward? Or does it stand a half decent chance of becoming a mechanism to a different problem or a familiar problem, a habit? What do you use? Now, if you are not at 7 and above for positivity, that it actually 9/10 of the time results in a positive 70 to 100%. Right under that, put not a good friend. Not a good friend. All right. So now I want you to be looking for, what do I use instead? This old friend has proven not to be a good friend. In a pinch, it's something. But do you want to live your whole life pinched? And isn't that what hoarding's doing? It's depriving you of the space for serenity and peace for yourself, for loved ones who live with you, for pets maybe, for options, for dreams. Are you staying stuck? And that means you can't realize a dream you've always wanted. I was kind of there before I went to Uganda. I kind of way in the background had George as a wallpaper on my phone. George is the face of a gorilla. And I thought, that would be really amazing. And then I saw that Anderson Cooper had gone gorilla trekking. And I thought, well, if he can do it, surely I can do it. But it was just sort of a whim. Um, I had to go in training for like 6, 8 months to be able to handle the physical demands of that. I won't call it a dream, but I'll call it like not even a bucket list. And then I thought, if I do that, I can show the people who come here every week, all right, what it's like to face down the challenge. Because it doesn't happen just because you make your mind up to it. Then the universe pulled a little joke on me, and of all the research I did, I didn't learn that actually Uganda is a mountainous country. So I could walk 10, 15 kilometers. It was a horse of a different color to be doing it going up, all right, like steep up. However, the motivation of you've got enough of what you need in the tank. All right. What do you need in your tank? And what would the end product look like? Is it that you would remediate your living environment? All right. Is it that you would achieve a bucket list? Is it that you wouldn't have to worry about your landlord, your mortgage company, your home insurance being distressed at the condition? Is it just that it nags you? All right. It nags you and makes you feel stuck. So all of those maladaptive options do one thing. In the moment, what they're doing is giving you a false sense of being protected. All right. Now, even if it's a good choice, is it a good enough choice that it warrants being a go-to every time anxiety pops up? So, especially when the circumstances that you're in feel unpredictable, all right? Unpredictable means you're not ready for it. Uncertain means you can be ready for it, but you have no idea what really, truly the next 3 steps forward are. And sometimes for some people, and please let me know if you're in this predicament, all right? It can leave you unsafe. And when you're unsafe and you don't know what to do about it and you don't feel capable of doing it, generally we turn a blind eye. All right? We just put blinders on. So, as Dr. Cook says in her book, the more we use those devices, the maladaptive adaptations, behaviors, choices, all right, that are simply designed to prevent potential pain in our life, all right, you wouldn't be here every week if they were adequate. There's a flaw in the plan somewhere and you know it. All right. So the contradiction is that none of those behaviors, even though they do perhaps give you a temporary sense of avoiding pain, right? None of them will ever, ever, ever lead us to success and get us anywhere near where we want and need to be, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And when I say spiritually, I mean your spirit, that life force that drives you. All right. I don't mean religious. That is your personal choice. But I think you already know that, right? You know how utterly exhausting and destructive maladaptive behaviors are. Right now, stop. And on that pad and paper, take your pen out and if you can, write down even 2 or 3 of your choice maladaptive behaviors. You got it? Write down more than one because there's bound to be more than one. Where do you go? What do you do? What do you tell yourself? Now, the next time you've just upped your game a bit, good for you. If you've written those 2 or 3, okay. Because the next time you find yourself going to that place, those behaviors, or even thinking, okay, well, I know what to do. Now I want you to have I want the alarm bell to go off. And you say, whoa, wait. When we were writing down not maladaptive behaviors, but our choice of places, unsuccessful places to go that have not yielded the response I wanted and needed in the past, why do I think that's a good idea? And that is what I'm thinking of doing now. Why would that be? All right. If you can get yourself to that point, you just took a giant step forward. And now all I want you to do when you catch yourself going to home plate, but it actually isn't home plate. All right. Now what I want you to do is to say, didn't work last time, not going to work this time. And just put yourself on pause. All right. Put yourself on pause. And until we get to the end of this series where good strategies are going to be laid out, consider doing anything else but that. Probably something in the opposite direction. Try new behaviors, try new choices. Ask for help. Now, we're not talking bossy help. We're not people who come in who have control issues, all right, and have 100 ideas on what you should do. All right, we're talking about people who really are humble, they're respectful, and if you need help, they're going to be adult enough to say to you, what help do you need? Tell me what you need done, what you need help with. And if they're not asking that question first, might not be your best choice. All right. I don't want you losing agency, because when you lose agency, you lose control. You also lose self-confidence and a little bit of self-respect. And when you're in a problem up to your knees, you don't need to think less about yourself. That is never going to get you anywhere. Neither is pretending that a choice that you've made 100 times before is suddenly going to be the miracle this time. Okay, that's probably just stay on pause. At least you're not doing damage to the project that you're working on. So, perpetually wondering whether something's going to be okay because you don't have not the perfect strategies, but even if you think of a strategy, you feel insecure about your competence, your skill level to perform that, give yourself a break. Whatever you have pictured, all right, whatever you have pictured as being required, break it down by 1/10. Break it down to, I'm sorry, misspoke, to 1/10 of what was required. You're still making progress. Because you know what I learned in my 77 years? Lasting solutions are generally made up of 10% advance at a time. So even though it doesn't solve the whole problem, even though it's not the color and look that you imagined when you were dreaming of a solution, it is a healthy chunk in a positive direction that you've actually made happen. All right. Don't apply the energy you have when you are not clear about what you intend to focus on. Choose your focus, apply your energy. All right. Now, for people who have ADHD or any level of ADHD or ADD, or even just some kinds of depression as well. One of the things you may find yourself doing is you have a focus to deal with X. All right. And as you're dealing with X, you find ABC in it. And then you take ABC and you go to try to put them where ABC goes. And before you know it, you're actually now focused on LMNOP. All right. You've changed the game plan. No, whatever you have to do, all right, whatever you have to do it to keep yourself focused on finishing the job you started. So I would respectfully suggest, and I do this all the time, all right, if I discover something in the XYZ, an ABC, I will take the ABCs and I'll go put them where they should go. All right. And sometimes, um, sometimes you can't get exactly to the spot, right? I will put it in that vicinity. And I will go back to the XYZ and I will still work on the XYZ. All right. What do you need to do to cue yourself? Do you need to leave something where the XYZ is that you need, that your cell phone, for instance, your whatever. What strategy would work for you to remind yourself today's job is XYZ and it's going to be XYZ until XYZ has made enough progress. You don't have to finish it, but that is the job. Because if you start breaking up XYZ, ABC, LMNOP, you're really never going to finish anything. All right? You're never going to finish anything. And you will have that feeling of, this just never ends. It's hopeless. It's hopeless. It isn't hopeless. You make yourself satisfied with a 10% improvement on XYZ, and you're going to get there. You may only get there by 10%, but that is better than 100 things that are lowered by 10%. All right. Okay. There's nothing like going back to an area that you've been working on and being able to visually see and experience the progress you've made, even if it's just a little bit of progress. Okay. So not to put effort into developing effective strategies to deal with anxiety. Ironically, if you just accept the status quo, that's life. I've always been this way. Ironically, leaves you increasingly vulnerable to repeat experiences of a vicious cycle. Okay. And that is a vicious cycle of anxiety and defeat. So it's really important, all right, that you get your head around. Solutions are found quite often in 10% application of a doable choice. So making the effort to learn how to deal with anxiety is going to help everybody. All right, it's going to help everybody work through reality. All right. And that reality that we're talking about is that life is sometimes absolutely going to be hard and occasionally scary. And we're going to have to come to terms with that. And coming to terms looks like accepting the anxiety, not your immersion in it, but that from time to time, you are going to feel anxious and together and uncertain and insecure and afraid, maybe even. But I'm hoping by the end, I'm trusting that by the end of these 4 podcasts, you're going to have a game plan that we, in the time we spend together, have tweaked a little bit better to be individually more appropriate for your needs and your life. Because none of us gets out of this world without uncertainty, anxiety, and fear. All right. So that's why I did the most recent Conquer the Challenges project. The Conquer the Challenges Part 2, Conquer Your Fear. All right. That's also why in real time, as funny as it seemed, it was not funny getting bounced around, I'll tell you. That's why I videoed myself, or I had myself videoed in the moment of fear and challenge. And I hope that you'll take time to watch the video footage when Braden gets it finished. All right. What it's like, and it's not about me. It's about you come here to have me help you. All right. And in my own ways, I have challenges that I have to face. And when I have myself videoed as I'm facing them down and in the moment having to adapt, I'm hoping that, first of all, that it's not too funny, but also that you can see, whoa, you know what? Yeah, she really did not have her hands on the tiller on that one. And still, by facing it, by preparing adequately, not perfectly, she got through it and came out the other end. All right. Because there is nothing as funny as being bounced around on a zodiac in high seas, I have to tell you. The metaphor, a kernel of popcorn in a popcorn maker, is very apt, believe me. All right. So, because there's nothing sophisticated or therapeutic about a rubber dinghy. All right. So I had to, in order to do that, because I have a healthy, I'll call it respect, I'll call it like, yeah, let's avoid it every time we can. Um, I wouldn't call it a fear, but it's don't kid yourself. You in the ocean's going to win every time. The ocean's going to win. All right. So, like, don't say you love it because that's a big lie. It's a vehicle that you need to endure in order to get the incentive, but you have to give yourself the incentive when you're looking at doing these jobs, undoing a hoarded environment, getting over something else, whatever the fear might be, or even if it's not like fear, but it's an aversion, but it's something that really from time to time needs to be done, like sorting and discarding. All right. You need to give yourself an incentive. Okay. I personally, in a hoarding situation, think really poor mental health is the definition of thinking that this is going to happen just because you need to do it. No, it's nobody gets up and thinks, gee, I can hardly, well, nobody likes them if they do, gets up and says in the morning, gee, I can hardly wait to do that thing I really don't want to do. All right. And making decisions that are final too can be darn right scary, can leave you feeling on the ledge. Like, what would I do? What would I do? And some of that is the self-talk that we disable ourselves with. So giving myself an incentive, the whales were my big thing. Now those bald eagles were pretty impressive too. But the whales and the exchange as they came close to the boat, because apparently they get to know the skipper's voice. They get to know the sound of one boat versus another boat. Um, and interestingly enough, this is an interesting fact. Well, we all call it a fact. We don't have any definite proof of this, I'll tell you the truth. But do you know that every time we went out on the Zodiac, if there were children, like we're talking not babies, but young children on the Zodiac, all right, the whales would almost approach the boat. Yeah, the whales would almost approach the boat. And the skipper said, I can't prove it, but he said, if I could rent kids, if that was legal to have them on the Zodiac, he said I'd be a millionaire because I would always and the whales act up. They act out like in a positive kind of friendly, frolicking kind of way. All right. In fact, on one of the just to show you giving yourself an incentive. All right. Next time I go whale watching, I actually will rent somebody's child because on one of them, the Zodiac trip before the one I was on, the whale actually came right up and rubbed the side of the Zodiac because one of the kids was crying. And and the skipper said it was like a Nana whale, like it was so funny. Not for the child, but for everybody else. We'll just edit that part out. Anyway, all that to say is, whatever it is you're looking to do, you've given yourself a list. What is your incentive attached to each one of those tasks? What is your incentive? And it has to be significant enough to be worth the effort that you're going to have to make. All right. So, homework. What are the things that are getting in your way? Make yourself a list of no more than 4 to 6. All right. Circle 2, the primary one and the backup. If the primary one proved insurmountable until you needed something that you don't have, you'd have another. All right. The last time you approached those different tasks, projects, whatever they are for you, what was your internal response? Can you summon up, if it wasn't positive, if it made you feel overwhelmed, can you summon up enough, even 10% of a more positive response to that must do thing? And do you have enough resources that are part of resolving that thing? And if you can't do it for whatever reason, what's your backup? What's your backup so that you come away from applying yourself to something so that you don't feel defeated? You feel like you have made even a 10% improvement on an alternative um, task, function, whatever it is. Okay? Come next week with those. I want this to be, when I'm asking the question, you have a very narrow band of responses internally that apply to you. This is not a one size fits all. All right. And we'll see if we can't coach you through to a whole lot more options to choose from and a whole lot more wisdom that 10% done repeatedly is actually good enough. And then you always walk away on a success. You all and you are far more likely to want to return to something that was enough of a success, not that thing that defeated you and still there nagging me. Uh, that's when we go in search of the blinders or distraction. That's not the way out. And we can habituate that. All right. Okay, everybody. Until next week, you take care. Make it a good one.